Hey everyone. So we're going to talk about what's going on in the Gaza Strip. Now, I don't mean on the diplomatic side with the board of peace and all that. We talked about that a lot last week, especially when Jared Kushner was in the region and the whole board of peace thing. We're not going to get into that. What we are going to get into is first just a couple items about what the IDF has been doing the last couple days and what they've been doing really for the last while. But then we're going to devote most of this video to a strange story to outsiders who don't really know what's going on here, which is kites being flown from Gaza into Israel and why they pose a serious security threat and why Israel is threatening over them. What is so dangerous about kites? So we're going to talk about that in this video, so stick around. Let's first hit the other headlines of what's going on in the Gaza Strip. So here we have a headline: IDF kills Hamas commander, strikes weapons production site near Gaza aid center. Hamas-affiliated health officials claim the strikes in Khan Yunis killed 2 people, including a 4-year-old boy. Now, understand something. Every time Israel carries out any strike, they warn in advance. They say exactly where they're striking, and they give everyone plenty of time to evacuate. Okay, I'm just putting that out there. Just remember that every time you hear that some young boy was killed. All right, this is from yesterday. The IDF and Shin Bet, Israel Security Agency, killed the terrorist Ismail Abu Ful, commander of a weapons production site at Hamas's production headquarters. A weapons production site. These guys are supposed to be talking about disarming. He took part in producing charges and anti-tank missiles for the terror organization. They killed him in a strike on the Al-Maghazi area in Gaza, the military announced on Sunday, yesterday. In addition, the same production site, which was established near an aid distribution point. Funny how they do that. Let's set up a weapons production site right next to where they distribute aid, probably because these are both operations that are run by Hamas. Anyway. For an international organization. And it was an aid distribution point for an international organization. They also want to say, it's just like the human shield strategy. Let's put the weapons production site right next to an international aid distribution site. Anyway, it was attacked, the military said, calling it an example of Hamas's systematic use of civilian infrastructure for the purpose of promoting and executing terrorist plots against IDF forces operating in the Yellow Line area. And Israeli citizens. Against IDF forces and Israeli citizens. The IDF also referred to Hamas's actions as systematically violating the ceasefire while attempting to restore its military capabilities. Okay, that's one story. And then we have a story from today, from literally just a couple hours ago. IDF says it destroyed 2 Hamas weapons depots located inside Gaza mosques. The Israeli military said it destroyed 2 Hamas weapons depots in the Gaza Strip, which were located inside mosques. The mosques in Gaza City and Deir al-Balach were used by Hamas to store dozens of assault rifles and other weapons, according to the IDF. Quote, this is another example of Hamas's systematic exploitation of civilian infrastructure, including mosques, in violation of international law to advance and execute terror attacks against IDF troops and Israeli civilians. These guys have not slowed down. Ahead of the strikes, the IDF published warnings to Palestinians residing in the area, as they always do. Okay. Now, we'll get to the kites. This is a big story. And we're going to talk about the kites and what the whole background is. And we're also going to take a look at how the anti-Israel media, how the Arab media is talking about these kites as well. IDF says 4 kites apparently flown from Gaza, found in Nahal Oz. Nahal Oz is one of the communities that was brutally attacked on October 7th. Residents demand response. 4 kites apparently flown from the Gaza Strip, here's the kites, landed in Kibbutz Nahal Oz over the weekend, prompting concerned residents to demand that Israel take action against what they believe to be a threat to their safety. Given Hamas's history of launching kites carrying incendiary devices at border communities. The Israel Defense Forces said that one of the kites was found inside the kibbutz on Friday, and the 3 others were found on Saturday morning. It assessed that the kites, which were attached to kilometers-long strings, were flown across the border from Gaza. Kilometers long strings. Folks, if a child is flying a kite, the string is not going to be kilometers long. Kilometers long strings. Hello? The military stressed that, quote, no suspicious findings were identified on the kites, and, quote, at no stage was there any danger to the public, although this did little to reassure residents of Nahal Oz, who warned that this was how it started before October 7th. According to Hebrew media reports, the IDF believes that Hamas was responsible for launching the kites and was doing so to test if and how Israel would respond. Here's the key background. From 2018, Palestinian terrorists regularly launched kites carrying incendiary devices at Israeli border communities, setting fire to wide swaths of land. They would burn their fields with them. This was terrorism. Okay, they did this a lot. The kibbutz, in a response to the IDF, said that it was taking the incident seriously despite it posing no obvious threat, and urged the military to do the same. Quote, this is how it started before October 7th. Initially seemingly innocent kites with Arabic writing on them were sent from the Gaza Strip. Then when Hamas realized that the kites were falling in our fields, they attached incendiary materials to them, and thousands of dunams of wheat fields were burned, the statement recalled. Here, this is a picture of a fire near Kibbutz Be'eri. This is a picture of a fire near Kibbutz Be'eri that was caused by a kite. Okay, that's what that is. Flown by Palestinians near the border, and this is from 2020, this picture. Okay, the next step was explosive balloons intended to harm citizens of the communities, and we saw where it ended. They sent over balloons with explosives. We demand that the security forces nip the kite phenomenon in the bud. That's a statement from one of the heads of the communities near the Gaza Strip. So that story that I just read you, this was from yesterday. Okay, this is about kites from Friday and Saturday. And then here's a story from today, from just a few hours ago when I'm recording this. Kite launched from Gaza found in Nahal Oz in 7th security breach in less than a month. But another kite, presumably launched from Gaza, was found on Monday, today, stuck in a tree near Nahal Oz, one of the Gaza border communities. The prime minister on probation, another kite in Nahal Oz. We expect an immediate IDF response to the kite terrorism. Hamas is testing the limits of a containment that should have ended after October 7th, said the Gaza Border Communities Forum. According to Uri Epstein, head of the Sha'ar HaNegev Regional Council, that's the regional council of this area, near the Gaza Strip, the additional kite discovered in Nahal Oz reinforces the understanding that this is not a one-time incident. While Hamas is regaining its composure, Israel is returning to a policy of containment and reactivity instead of initiative. You got to remember that the people in these communities tended to be like the most dovish, left-wing peace activists in the country, and now you see how they are just not standing for any of it. That's what October 7th will do to you. Every object that crosses from the Gaza Strip into Israeli territory must be identified and dealt with in real time, not just after it lands in our localities. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz directly warned Hamas on Sunday that if the launch of the kites across the border into Israeli territory does not stop immediately, the IDF will increase strikes on the Gaza Strip. And then this is from today. This is from even more recent. This is from a couple hours afterwards. This is like literally a few minutes ago when I'm recording this. 9 kites launched from Gaza at IDF troops in June without Israeli response. This is a new report. Now people are starting to look into the kites. 9 kites were launched from the Gaza Strip toward IDF troops in June, but the incidents were neither publicly reported nor met with an Israeli response, Channel 12 reports. The IDF reportedly assesses that Hamas was behind the launches, rejecting suggestions that they were carried out independently or by children. A total of 12 kites and 4 balloons have reportedly crossed from Gaza in August as of today. Now let's see how the anti-Israel media is reporting this whole thing. So here's the BBC. Israel warns of forceful response to kites flown from Gaza. This is from a few hours ago. And look at the picture they have accompanying it. They have a little kid holding a kite. Palestinian boy holds up a kite at a camp for displaced people in Gaza City on Sunday. Israel has warned Hamas that it will increase strikes on Gaza following concerns over launches of kites, drones, and balloons from the territory. Several kites were found in an Israeli community near the border with Gaza over the weekend, local media reported. Hamas has denied responsibility for the new kites, which were not carrying explosives, and said they belong to children searching for their innocent childhood amid the rubble. Right? The group Hamas also accused Israel of using the kites as a pretext for continued airstrikes. Okay. No suspicious materials were attached to the kites, and they did not pose a threat, the military said. Hamas warned of, quote, the danger of the allegations and threats from Israel, and said the kites were basically children's toys from displacement camps. These threats are based on fabricated pretexts and are an attempt to justify the continuation of the aggression and violations against our people. A spokesman for the group added, well, how about your weapons manufacturing facilities that you're putting next to an aid distribution site or in mosques? Are those justifications for the continuation of the aggression against your people? Quote, there is no ceasefire. There is nothing, Abu Ahmed, a displaced man who has been sheltering nearby, told Reuters. We want solutions. We want to live in peace. On Monday, Palestinian media reported that a man called Mohammed Abu Assad was killed in an overnight Israeli strike on a tent in the central town of Deir al-Balach. The Israeli military said that Abu Assad was a member of the elite Nukhba forces of Hamas's military wing who had taken part in the Hamas-led 7 October 2023 attack on southern Israel. Yes, indeed, Israel continues to hunt every single person who participated in the October 7th attacks, and they're picking them off. That's another thing that's happening in Gaza. Israel continues to assassinate the perpetrators of October 7th and is determined to get to all of them. And then here we have this report in Arab News, ArabNews.com, owned by a member of the Saudi royal family, how Gaza's kite tradition became entangled in conflict. Oh, there's a child standing above rubble holding a kite. For generations, spring and summer along Gaza's coast meant homemade kites, brightly colored creations, sometimes tied to rooftops so the wind would not carry them away. Today, however, Israel regards the toys as a potential security threat. Yeah, these weren't tied to rooftops. These had actually strings that were kilometers long. You got to understand, the Israeli border communities and the towns where and the populated areas where the Palestinians in Gaza are, the Arabs in Gaza are, is really far. It's like in the narrowest spots, it's like a few kilometers away. It gets up to 6 kilometers. We're talking, a few miles. And we have these strings attached to the kites that we're finding that are kilometers long. But for generations, there's this Gazan tradition of kites. Quote, it was one of the most ordinary joys of childhood, Maisa Yosef, an artist and mother of 3 in central Gaza, told Arab News as she recalled a tradition shared by families across the Palestinian enclave's refugee camps. Her children, however, have had little opportunity to experience it. For much of their lives, said Yosef, kites have been largely barred from Gaza. And since the war began in October 2023, after a Hamas-led attack on Israel, even basic materials used to make them, such as glue and paper, have been restricted in the territory. The issue gained fresh urgency after several kites drifted from Gaza into southern Israel over the weekend, prompting Defense Minister Israel Katz to convene senior military officials on Sunday, according to Israeli media reports. There's another poor boy next to a destroyed car. A car destroyed in an Israeli airstrike, and he's holding a kite. What a great picture. They really put that one together nicely. At least 4 kites crossed into farming communities, including Kibbutz Nachal Oz, they said. The Israeli military found nothing suspicious on them and said there was at no stage any danger to the public, the Times of Israel reported. Let's jump ahead here. Sometimes the string breaks and the kite flies away and lands in the perimeter area. Yusuf said, the Israelis see that as Today it flew on its own. Tomorrow it may carry incendiary or explosive materials. That's not what the Israelis say. They don't say today it flew on its own. For Palestinians, however, Yusuf said kites hold cultural significance. Now we're learning something about Gazan culture. Children and families traditionally paint them with colorful designs. I mean, the kites that we saw in these pictures did not have colorful designs. Black, white, clear. Anyway, but let's go back. Islamic motifs or the colors of the Palestinian flag before flying them in the coastal breeze. Quote, I consider the kite a symbol, like the dove of peace, the kafiyah or the key, she said. The kite is also one of the symbols of the Palestinian cause. The kite is a symbol of the Palestinian cause. Kite making was a tradition. It was popular in every refugee camp. As soon as the wind picked up, everyone would grab their kite, try to fly it, and tie it to their house, leaving it in the air. For Yusuf, the result is that war and restrictions have stripped children of familiar pleasures. The war in Gaza has deprived children of a simple toy, she said. It was only a kite or only a balloon that made them happy. Now it's considered a threat to Israel's security and stability. Oh, I feel so bad for them. This war also, it denied the Bibas children of life. It denied, a lot of people in the Gaza envelope of life. And, these Gazan residents who overwhelmingly still support Hamas and were cheering in the streets, handing out candies as Israeli hostages, women who had been raped and that were now being dragged into captivity, were being dragged through the streets in Gaza. They were cheering. And, it's so sad that this war has deprived them of the simple pleasure in life of flying a kite with a string attached to it that's numerous kilometers long. And it just happens to land on the territory of Israeli towns nearby that were attacked on October 7th. Yeah, it's a real shame that the war deprives them of these simple pleasures in life. That's what happens when you commit brutal atrocities and declare war. But on a serious note, Hamas is testing the Israelis. Just like when you have these stories that have happened over the last month or so of Hamas guys, or people unarmed going near the yellow line, trying to cross it, testing out the Israelis, seeing what they'll respond to and what they won't. And this is how it started back in 2018. First, kites just started and balloons just started coming over, and no one paid much attention to them. And then they started having incendiary devices. They started exploding, causing tremendous damage to the towns in that area. So yeah, if you want your kids to be able to have the simple pleasures in life, like flying a kite, good idea to not embrace genocide and terrorism against the Jewish state. That's what I recommend if you want your kids to have that simple pleasure. Anyway, thanks for watching this one. I hope you're subscribed to this channel. And if you're not, please do so. And please drop a comment. Let me know what you thought of this video. And share it with someone who you think might find it of interest. And I'll see you on the next one. God bless.